So again, hello to everyone out there. I really appreciate the large number of people that have registered and have showed up for today's webinar session. Well, this will be about an hour in length. So if you have any questions or comments outside of introducing yourself in the chat space, please do your questions, your comments in the Q&A. Find that in your toolbar, Q&A. As we go along, if you have a comment, if you have a question, put it in there. There's just too much stuff going on right now in the chat space. So if you have a question, you have a comment, find that Q&A, and we will address those at the end of today's session. So we've a great number of people on live, so let's go ahead and begin. Topic is putting the positive in quotations in substance use prevention. It's a brand new topic for us, and so let's see how it's going to go for us today. Objectives, there's 3 of them. We're going to explore various concepts associated with what's considered positive substance use prevention. Then we're going to be, and these will be intermixed by the way, but secondly, we'll also be looking at some differences between what's considered positive versus negative of substance use prevention or prevention in general, and what the advantages might be to positive prevention. And lastly, I'll be presenting to you an evidence-based model for creating and promoting or providing positive substance use prevention. Okay, so that's what we're going to be covering today. I do have one short, a very brief poll that I'd like to share with you, just sort of get things moving so everybody can have an opportunity to participate. I just sent it out to you to take a moment to reach you. Just 3 brief questions. The first 2 are, I think, just multiple choice, and then the third is open-ended. So when you see these, if you don't mind taking a moment to participate. Just 3 questions, introductory poll to get a sense of who's online today. So if you do have a computer, you have a device where you can answer the poll, please do that. It's very informative, gives us a sense of who's on, and we can respond to that and tailor the webinar slightly to those individuals. If you don't see question 2 and 3, you just scroll down to those items. And that third item is open-ended. So if you'll just type in something briefly there, we'll be able to look at those responses. And so I'll just give you just a moment to answer those. It won't take very long. And to give everybody an opportunity, just give you another minute or so. We've got 48%, 49% have responded. So far, we're over half of you have responded, which is amazing. Really appreciate you all participating in this and being active participants in this webinar. That always makes it more enjoyable, I think, for everybody if you do participate. But I know not everybody can, because you may be just listening in, or you may be multitasking. So if you're multitasking, and if you can do it, stop multitasking and take a look at these slides. That said, I will be posting these slides on our website. So you will have access to the slides, the recording of the session, and the CE certificate for 1 hour of time spent with us. And I do make an effort to put in links to the source of the slides, so you have extra content. So when you get the slides, you'll have an opportunity to explore some of the information that I shared today. All right, so we have 73%. I'm going to stop, end the poll at this point. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, we're over 76%. So we stopped at this point. Thank you all very much for participating. And I'm going to share the results with you. And here they come. Question number 1 is, have you ever used positive prevention? And 6 out of 10 of you have said yes. I'm sorry, 54% said yes. The majority of you said yes, you have used positive prevention. although 18% said no, or I should say 18% said maybe. I'm having problems reading my own poll. Number one, the majority of you, 54%, said yes, positive. The next largest group of you said you don't know. Almost a quarter of you said you don't know because, so you're in the right place, because we are going to define what we're talking about when we talk about positive. What is positive prevention? And so you're in the right place, and another 18% said you don't know, and then 4% said no. So a lot of you don't know necessarily what positive prevention is. Perfect, because we'll be deciding it. A lot of you said, half of you said you have used positive prevention, so we'll be interested to see what you mean by positive prevention. Question 2. Do you prefer positive or negative prevention approaches? And not surprisingly, since you're on with this webinar, 77% said you prefer positive, but the next largest group of you said you're not sure, you don't know at this point. 23% said you don't know. And nobody said that they like negative approaches. And then lastly, what are some examples of positive prevention? And so let's see if I can, I'm trying to see if we can pull those up and look at those responses. And let me go ahead and take a look at them, and I could read some of those. I don't know if you could see some of these or not. Let's see. Positive approaches are, oh, there we go. It's one of those models. So, and so positive means students messaging, what's their substance use, their norms, community choices, etc. And if we looked at some of the responses from those of you that answered, recognizing small accomplishments, offering positive alternatives. Most of us do not vape, or most of us do not drink. So norm communications, PCN framework. I'm not sure what PCN stands for. If you might want to tell us what that is, in case some of us don't know. Providing knowledge of the effects of substance use to students. So there's quite a bit of answers here. I'm going to see if I can capture those and maybe share those with you. Okay, if I can capture those, I'm going to share those with you because you took the time to respond. And it's going to be interesting to see how people responded to that. Okay, so let me go ahead then and go back to, let me see, stop sharing. Okay, pull the slides back up one more time. Okay, so I think we're back on, so let's go ahead and proceed then with the content, the showing of the slides. And again, if you have questions or comments, you can put those in the Q&A. And so we've got a lot to share with you. So let's start out with just the basics. What is positive prevention? And I thought it'd be good to start out with just what is positive? What do we mean by positive? So this is some definitions from the Google dictionary. So the first definition under the heading of positive was consisting in or characterized by the presence or the possession of features or qualities rather than their absence. In other words, positive means there's something there versus negative being that there's an absence of things. So that's one definition of positive. Another, number two, is it's constructive, it's optimistic, it's confident. So, and there was even an example of phrasing what positive was in this Google dictionary, and it was, there needs to be a positive approach to youth offenders. We might even say there needs to be a positive approach to substance use prevention. So I found that sort of interesting that was that phrase of using positive was found in the Google Dictionary. Another way to look at it, from my perspective at least, is it's the opposite of negative. Positive is the opposite of negative. And then what is positive prevention? There is actually a concept, a professional concept referred to as positive prevention, and it is defined as or explained as nurturing strengths and talents to support thriving and well-being. And this idea of positive prevention is a main component within positive psychology. So again, the focus is on fostering individual strengths and enhancing their overall well-being rather than solely focusing on fixing deficits. Okay, so that's positive prevention within the field of positive psychology. So, positive prevention, if you look at the literature and you search for the term positive prevention, you'll see it focuses on empowerment, on well-being, and some of the concepts that I saw were that positive prevention doesn't use scare tactics. Most of you already know this, but scare tactics don't work. They're actually counterproductive. But positive prevention also doesn't rely solely on focusing on negative consequences. In other words, positive prevention doesn't rely solely on or only on a risk communication. Instead, it builds on protective factors. It promotes healthy behaviors and actions. It promotes life skills. And the goal is to empower young people, usually young people, to make informed and responsible choices. And that's really what prevention and health are all about, making positive choices. One of the terms that you'll see quite frequently in the positive prevention is this idea of asset-based prevention. So asset-based prevention, by the way, there's a very long link in the bottom that you'll be able to click on or cut and paste it in your browser if you look at these slides later. And want to learn more about asset-based prevention. But as you can see here, it focuses on empowering both the individual and communities. So asset-based prevention is a little bit broader than just the individual. It does focus also on communities, but the focus is on utilizing their existing strengths and resources, and for what purpose? To improve health and even broader health, well-being. And so this seeks to identify and build upon assets that individuals and communities have within the environment to promote overall health. That's asset-based prevention. That's another concept within, I would say, within the whole arena of positive prevention. Another is, speaking of, resiliency-based prevention. The focus here is on strengthening individuals' ability to cope with adversity and overcome challenges, rather than, again, just focusing on dealing with issues or risks or problems as they arise. So it is future-oriented, it is prevention-oriented, this idea of resiliency-based prevention. And resilience-based prevention programs usually aim to build both internal and external resources in people so that they can be prepared to address negative experiences that we all have in life. So it emphasizes individual strengths and protective factors, again, for the purpose of enhancing overall well-being. And speaking of well-being, SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, many of you, I'm sure, are aware of, and I've shared this before in some of our previous webinars, is SAMHSA has identified created a wellness initiative some years ago, and as a part of their focus on substance abuse treatment, prevention, recovery, mental health. And their definition of wellness is not the absence of disease or illness or stress, or not only, I should say, but the presence of positive purpose in life, satisfying work and play, joyful relationships, a healthy body, and a living environment, and even happiness. So wellness is obviously a much broader concept than prevention or even health. And a couple of concepts related to SAMHSA's wellness initiative is wellness integrates behavioral and physical health. In other words, it recognizes that each of us is more than a body or mind, and that our bodies and minds are interrelated, they're interconnected. And so there's a whole here, wholeness, wellness. And wellness is empowering. There's that term again, empowering, positive. It's prevention oriented, and it's focused on emphasizing positive goals, learning self management or self control skills, and developing healthy habits. So, broader concept, wellness. And you'll see wellness if you do search under the heading of positive prevention. Also, in positive prevention, you'll come up on, or I did come upon positive health behaviors, otherwise known as, I would say, healthy behaviors, but positive health behaviors. They're actions that promote uh, good health and well being. They're practices like regular physical activity or exercise, healthy nutrition, adequate sleep, avoiding substance use, particularly misuse, promoting for the purpose of promoting a longer and healthier lifestyle. So this is in contrast to the typical health care system, which is a treatment system, which is sort of a negative system and that is focused on after the fact. The positive health behaviors or healthy behaviors is really a system for health. It's really person focused versus patient focused. So it's a system that focuses on improving personal decisions. Another concept that comes up if you search under the heading of positive prevention, and you'll see this a lot under websites for substance abuse treatment, recovery, mental health services. You'll see healthy alternatives to self-medicating with substance use, alcohol, and drugs. So, and what are these healthy alternatives? And some of you mentioned this, by the way, when we looked at answers to, what does it mean when we talk about positive prevention? We're talking about healthy behaviors, getting adequate sleep, exercise regularly, some meditation practice or breathing or mindfulness approach to address stress in our lives, nutrition, eating regularly, not skipping meals, and then psychological components like expressing gratitude, asking for support, even taking short breaks. There's a lot to healthy alternatives. So those are just some concepts that are pretty obvious to the arena of positive prevention. So there's no necessarily single approach to it. Although I did say we did have obviously some definitions of what positive meant, and there is such a thing as positive prevention within positive psychology. So let's take a look at sort of contrasting and comparing what's the difference between positive and negative. One concept of positive and negative, or negative and positive, is risk and protective factors. We know risk and protective factors together define or influence our use of substance use and misuse. So, so risk is a danger. It's something that's negative, something we want to avoid. And obviously, there's risks and risk factors and risk behaviors to substance use. The implication is we want to avoid these types of circumstances, internal or external to us. And a negatively phrased statement uses negative words and negative outcomes. So you see this in our prevention vernacular. You see, don't use drugs, say no to drugs, never drink and drive. So those are, and they're quite prevalent in prevention. So the focus on risk, which is a negative approach, and then the opposite of that, the other side of that coin, I guess you might say, is our protective factors, their protection or shielding. There's something there positive versus something that's lacking. So the implication here is to pursue or seek something that's protective, positive. Phrases are used in terms of words and outcomes. And so you hear things like increasing healthy habits or practicing resiliency skills or improving your wellness. So that's some of the pros and cons, or I should not say pros and cons, positive and negative, or in one of the most obvious ones in the prevention field is protective factors and risk factors. Another contrast, positive and negative, is how you frame health communications, how we communicate health information to individuals and to communities and populations. So in health communications, a positive framed message focuses on gains, or what are the benefits of a health behavior, while negative framed communications highlights the losses of unhealthy behavior usually. So research, by the way, suggests that positive framing messages may be more effective and may be more effective at increasing motivation for changing health behavior. So there's an example at the bottom of how to frame a message positively versus negatively. So positive framing is eating a balanced diet can help you feel your best and have more energy. Whereas a negatively framed communication about nutrition is not eating a balanced diet can lead to weight gain and higher risks of heart disease. You can see it's highlighting what the gains are, what are the benefits. That's positive framing versus negative framing is what are the risks, or what are the downsides or losses to a behavior, or not engaging in a behavior, or engaging in a behavior. So positive framing has some advantages to negative framing in terms of health communication. Similarly, there's positive versus negative self-image. Self-image is, how you perceive yourself. A positive self-image is, gives you some confidence in your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, versus a negative self-image, which makes an individual more doubtful about their capabilities and their thinking. Positive self-images are assets. They're our potential. So when we think of ourselves in positive terms, potential and assets. So you would use terms like, and we use these in our prevention plus wellness programs. We'll talk more about that. Use terms such as positive self-image terms such as active, fit, healthy, successful, smart, kind, resilient. And negative self-image terms are just identifying our faults, our weaknesses, our limitations. From a psychological perspective, a healthy self-image is one that sort of balances all of these, the positive and negative images in our life, because we have both. So it's, from a healthy psychological perspective, we want to emphasize the positive self-images. We want to identify maybe some of the less positive images and work toward changing them or improving them, self-improvement. And then ultimately, there's some that we may not be able to change that we want to accept in our lives, some negative images that we have to accept. And that's a positive overall psychological approach. But there's obviously some benefits to positive uh, self-images versus negative. And in fact, there's some more recent research showing positive versus negative and future versus past thinking. And research shows that that there's an actual bias towards positive versus negative thinking and future versus past events, which suggests that, if we think of ourselves in the future in a positive way, that's very motivating for us. So it suggests that we want to have our clients, our youth, our family members, ourselves think in terms of future selves, think in terms of positive future selves, and that is very motivating for us and can result in positive changes for us versus thinking negatively and thinking in terms of past. So thinking positively, thinking of future selves, very important for change. And I know I mentioned this in the past in some of our in some of our previous webinars, but not perhaps exactly like this. But the teen brain is often brought up, and usually with the focus on the prefrontal cortex is undeveloped, and so because of that, young people's decision making is not fully developed. They have a lack of or less impulse control, and that can lead to risky behavior, decision making. So, like using substances, for example. But that's the negative. But the positive part of the brain development is the brain is highly plastic, and this plasticity allows it to change based on where that young person is and what the environment is and what they're experiencing. And if they experience physical activity or other healthy environments or other healthy behaviors or other pro-social activities, that can help that brain form in a positive, healthy manner. So, positive and negative, yes, there's some challenges to the undeveloped brain, but there's also opportunities to give the young people positive experiences, healthy behaviors that can have a significant impact on their brain development. Overall, I would say substance use prevention, this is my opinion and our opinion of Prevention Plus Wellness, is just too negative. There's just too much of a focus on risk factors. I'm not saying that risk factors are bad, but I'm saying there's too much of a focus on only or solely risk factors. And we don't have enough focus on protective factors, which can influence not just substance use, but broader wellness outcomes. So substance use prevention and intervention, in our opinion, should expand to be more inclusive of targeting protective, healthy, promoting behaviors that can lead to increasing well-being, performance, happiness for our youth, for our families, for our communities. And so less negativity and more positivity. So modeling is another factor that comes up when you look at health behaviors. Modeling is fundamental to social learning theory. Modeling or observing others is how we learn. And I had a 2-year-old granddaughter. If I say humongous to her, she may not understand that word, but she will parrot it back to me. It's hilarious. But that's just one small example of how we learn. We learn, and we continue to learn by looking at role models, observing others, and the consequences of those behaviors, those actions, and that's how we learn. We learn through the actual live models, and we learn through to electronic models. In other words, online models, TV, social media, etc. So this can, and this is a way that young people and adults and older adults learn behaviors, including health behaviors and unhealthy behaviors. They're modeled to us. We see them, we see the outcomes. If they're positive, we're likely to adopt them. Negative, less likely. And so modeling, very important, but there's like, again, two main sources of modeling, the live modeling, physical modeling, and then there's the electronic modeling, which may be even more powerful for young people, more influential because they're exposed to so much electronic, social media, TV, etc., print, even to a lesser extent print, but socially, especially electronic media. And these could be family members, these could be peers, celebrities, health professionals. All these can be role models for us or models, somebody that we trust, we admire, and we perceive as credible, or maybe we don't even notice that we're perceiving them, but they're having an impact on us. And we can see people engaged in diet, exercise, substance use, sexual habits, and these are having an impact on our behavior. They're shaping our behavior. They're modeling, and we're observing and repeating those what we're seeing. And another aspect of this is social norms. When we see somebody that's a peer or someone that we look up to engage in a behavior, we're going to we may conclude that that's the norm, that it's common, and that social norm can also influence, as you know, our health behaviors. So positive modeling is, learning when we see individuals exhibit the, desired outcomes from their actions, positive results versus, negative results. So if you achieve a positive outcome, success, that's a positive model. If we see negative consequences, that's a negative model. So it raises the question of I'd like to raise the question of, does drug prevention have an image problem? In other words, does drug prevention, if you type in drug prevention and you look at images, are we seeing positive images? Well, here's one example right there. You type in drug prevention and you see pills, or you see, other substances, or people trying to support each other. In other words, not so much prevention as I view these images as being risk focused. And you see this abuse and stop when you type in, this is when you type in the word drug prevention, you see say no to drugs and you see pictures of drugs. And so you see, this is a more positive, image, I think, in terms of, somebody, responding positively, they're saying no. So you can see it physically, but you can see on the other hand, there's a syringe and pills. And so again, not the most positive. Teacher teams, what? Well, we show the drugs and we say no. So again, if you type in drug prevention, you see more negative images than positive. We do have some, for the younger kids, Red Ribbon Week, we'll see a healthy me is drug free. That's a nice message. But the question is, what is drug free? The challenge is it's a negative image based model. So I ask you now, can you describe or can you picture in your mind what a drug free youth looks like, or a drug free adult? It doesn't matter. And the problem is it's difficult. If you're trying right now, it's difficult to imagine, and for us as professionals to communicate a negative or an absent behavior. If I'm not using something, what do I look like? Well, it's nothing. So, but what you can do is you can put in place of that, and I'm sure some of you have, and I think we saw that in the responses in terms of positive imaging, is you can really focus on promoting healthy behaviors as a replacement to this negative, image or lack of an image. And so when you look at health promotion, right off the bat, you see healthy behaviors. You see fruits and vegetables and weights and running shoes and yoga mats. Sometimes you'll see, more of a medical model here, and the focus may be a little bit narrowly on cardiovascular health. But if you type in youth and health promotion, you'll see, active, positive images jumping in the air, sort of reaching to, something higher. You'll see tips for health, how to achieve health. So some suggestions and focus on different types of health behavior, from nutrition to exercise to sleep to stress prevention. You'll see positive images of young people raising their hands and happy, healthy, supporting each other. And again, a lot of fruits and vegetables and smiling faces. So a little bit more positive with the health promotion and healthy behaviors versus prevention. If we look at substance use in social media, we'll see some interesting things. So, for example, 2020, there was a study analyzed the top 400 YouTube videos related to e-cigarette use. The majority of these, the greatest percentage, 47%, were pro-vaping videos. So what we're seeing in social media, YouTube is an example, e-cigarettes is one example, the majority promoting e-cigarettes, another next largest section, 42% or so, were vaping warning videos. So they're negative communications. Watch out, risks associated with it. 2021 study found that 808 vaping-related videos on TikTok were viewed 1.5 billion times. So the reach is amazing and tremendous on social media, which is something we have to contend with, and we do contend with. And 2023 studies showed that 98% of TikTok videos promoted vaping. So you see a lot of promotion of negative behavior, substance use. We took vaping as an example in these different social media platforms. And much of this is, it features young people that are vaping and promoting vaping related products. So negative images from the perspective of promoting negative behavior. If we look at health behaviors, it's sort of a mixed response, in terms of health behavior modeling on social media. So for example, we see a significant portion of physical literacy content on YouTube, but a lot of that is focusing on risks rather than, looking at the benefits of healthy physical activity. It's the risks of sedentary behavior. So even with a positive behavior like physical activity, the messaging is more negative, looking at risks rather than promoting the benefits of physical activity. On YouTube, we saw that almost 73% of videos promoted physical activity. That's a good thing. If we look at TikTok, we see that most of those messages about health behaviors were user generated. In other words, they weren't experts. They weren't presenting evidence-based content or strategies. They were regular people, influencers and so forth, promoting their opinions, which is not the best. And so we see studies that show that the content promoting unhealthy behaviors, we see content promoting unhealthy behaviors like diet culture, for example, is very prevalent. And it's highly engaging, which means it could have a negative impact on our young people. So even when we talk about health behaviors, social media is not living up to its potential to promote in a positive way healthy behaviors. So what's a solution? Well, here's an evidence-based, positive prevention model where we can learned just one model to promote more positive prevention, and this model is the behavior image model, the BIM. And excuse me, I'm so sorry. Let me just get a drink here. The BIM, the behavior image model, is a wellness-based theoretical map for developing programs and strategies. Most of them have been brief at this point because it's also integrated with a screening and brief intervention, but they don't necessarily have to be brief. But the focus of the BIM is on connecting healthy behavior promotion with substance use prevention or avoidance. So it's used to create a wide range of multi-health behavior prevention programs for youth, for young adults, for adults, for parents, even media campaigns, and you can use it too. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the behavior image model. What are some of the positive components of BIM? You communicate positive, aspirational, peer and social and future images as benefits, as values for young people, and substance use as harmful to achieving those goals. So you have the health behaviors as positive, future benefits, and substance use as a loss or interfering. And that's how you connect and increase motivation to change multiple behaviors, not just substance use, but also improving these positive, healthy behaviors, health promoting behaviors. So also another positive component is number two is you use multiple behavior goal setting and contracting to initiate behavior change. Very important. Goal setting is critical to initiating and achieving behavior change, but also the unique aspect of the behavior image model goal setting is it focuses on improving health behaviors while avoiding substance use. And this increases self-control, self-efficacy, self-image is improved, and then supporting continued goal setting and choosing positive behavior choices. All of those are positive elements of the behavior image model. Now, it's a four-step evidence-based model. Here it is: screening youth for their current health habits, or you ask them about their healthy behaviors, their current health behaviors. Could be physical activity, nutrition, sleep, substance use. Secondly, providing positive behavior communication to initiate and motivate behavior change. Secondly, multiple behavior goal setting, as we talked about. And then lastly, supporting and following up with that goal setting to continue that process. That's the four-step model. The behavior image model uses prospect theory in terms of its message framing. So information is presented in terms of either positive gains, that's the benefits, or negative losses or costs with regard to behaviors. And so here it is. What happens is it's primarily, by the way, positive with some negative frame messages. So it's actually a balance, both. It's not all positive. It's certainly not all negative, but it's a little bit of both. And that's believed to be more receptive to individuals overall. Some are more inclined to positive messaging, others negative. So you're using both. And so it uses image-based strategies that have emphasizing the appearance and performance, and that benefits, and those are the gains, and those are believed to be very powerful and influential, and the costs or the losses are focused on the substance use. So healthy behaviors resulted in positive images and behaviors and outcomes, and substance use interferes with that, and that's how these behaviors use prospect theory and link positive and negative communications. Now, there's quite a bit of support for targeting image and influencing health behavior, preventing substance using. So let's take a look at it. So number one, image has a conceptual support with different theories. So possible selves theory, social learning theory. There's several that emphasize the importance of the image in modeling for changing behavior. Number two, image is supported by a bunch of research, different kinds of research studies of self-concept, of prototype images, of possible selves, of positive identity, all those things showing that image influences health behaviors of young people as well as adults. Number three, image has a practice support because we see image. It's a practical support because we see image used in advertising. Image, everything, almost everything that's sold by companies will oftentimes use an image approach. So if you buy an automobile, it will be sold in terms of desirable images for you. The automobile that is that focuses on an image of success or wealth or strength or whatever the case may be, very common and that's selling cars, selling clothing, selling alcohol beverages, whatever. The focus oftentimes and very effectively is on image. So we do know image is used and is successful in selling products. And so that's what the behavior image model is about. It's not selling, it's selling an image, a positive image of young people and of adults in the future engaged in health behaviors, avoiding substance use. So a positive strength-based focus on wellness habits is, by the way, more acceptable and interesting to youth, to parents, to communities, organizations, funding agencies. And we've seen this over the years. We've seen, particularly once you get to, older adolescent, older middle school individuals, high school, and young adults, definitely all those. As young people get older, they've heard risk messages, they've heard negative communication, and so the positive communication is much more appealing to them. They're open to it, they're more interested in it, and will listen to it. And so there's some real benefits to focusing on image and positive images. And so image does shape health behaviors. We've seen this in research. Research supports the importance of addressing what you would call prototypes or stereotypes, ideal, images of young people. Let's say, for example, being physically active or eating healthy. Research has indicated that images of in the future are a possible self, future possible self, are important to predicting health behavior. So looking into the future and viewing yourself as a positive self can influence your health behavior change, and then processes of social and self-comparison. If we compare ourselves in the future, as I said earlier, there's we have a bias toward positive views of ourselves, future views of ourselves, and that's more influential and more motivational than negative or past views of ourselves. So what we're talking about with the behavior image model is this thing called coupling. And coupling is simply you're linking behaviors together. So with the behavior image model, you're linking, you're connecting the healthy behaviors, physical activity. These are in particular, you can do others, but physical activity and sports, breakfast nutrition, sleep, stress control, and avoiding substance use, whatever substance use. Could be e-cigarettes, cannabis, alcohol, opioids, and others. So that's and so if you can link these behaviors within a single communication and address how they interact with each other, that's very instructive for young people and very influential for the behavior change. And that's what we're talking about by coupling. It's just a fancy phrase for integrating behaviors. And how do you do that? How do we do that? It's a two-step messaging process. The goal is to trigger a mental picture of healthy behaviors and substance use as counterproductive or harmful. And so there's two components to it. You use vivid images, future images, fit, active, healthy, successful, and marijuana use will interfere with you achieving those images, those behaviors, those benefits. And that's the two-step messaging process. So how about goal setting then? Again, positive goal setting, image relationships, very important. One of the reasons goal setting fails is because we're setting goals because they're not linked to our true desired future images, which are really values for ourselves. So if a young person can say they want to improve get 15 more minutes of physical activity because they want to look fit, active, successful, that's going to be more successful in achieving those goals than if someone just told them, hey, you need to get more physical activity. So again, it really depends on if it's linked to their overall perception of themselves in the future, positive view of themselves. That's a good source for setting goal, and you're more likely to have success in setting goal. More motivation for change, and more likely to achieve those behaviors. And likely, similarly, if substance use interferes with achieving the positive desired images, values of an individual, that's going to be much more powerful than if somebody just says, hey, you need to not drink alcohol. And so how goal setting works in the behavior image model, programs based on BIM, behavior image model, provide feedback on health behaviors and their images. Secondly, there's a discrepancy between current health behaviors and future images. That sort of highlights and suggests positive goals. And then you set those goals to achieve those health behaviors while avoiding substance use, because that could interfere with achieving those behaviors. So that's really the bottom line. This is a simplified logic model of the behavior image model. It's on our website if you want to take a look at it, and you'll also see these slides that we'll be sharing with you. So in conclusion, three important summary things I wanted to highlight for you. Number one, there's a relatively wide range of concepts associated with what we consider positive prevention. You'll see terms like strengths and wellness and healthy behaviors and protective factors and self-images, for example. And number two, there's significant advantages to using positive substance use prevention content and components versus only negative ones in terms of both effectiveness and desirability. That's not to say risk content is not important. It is. It's just to say that we focus too much, oftentimes, on risk and not enough on positive protective factors and positive behaviors. And the behavior image model of the BIM is a wellness-based theory that you all can use to create your own and provide your own positive substance use prevention programs and strategies and communications that target healthy habit promotion and future images and multiple behavior goal setting. And that's it. And so thank you so much. There's more information. If you want to go to our website, preventionpluswellness.com, to learn more. There's our phone number, 904-472-5022. You can email us at any time, info@preventionpluswellness.com. And I will be sending you an email today with with an address so that you can access these slides, the recording of this webinar, a CEU certificate. And so now I'm just going to pause and thank you so much one more time for spending your time with us. I want to see if there's any questions that anybody had. So if you have any, pull up the Q&A is where you take a look at them. And at this point, I don't see anything that's been added. So if you do have a question, you do have a comment, now's the time to add it and bring it up. So we are actually just about out of time, but I'm happy to stay here to see if anybody has any comments. I will, if we take a look at, for example, the chat comments, we'll see a lot of people that have introduced themselves that are thanking me for this. Thank you. God bless you guys for all you do for prevention and health and well-being and promoting the overall well-being and happiness and performance even of young people, of families, of communities. And if we can help in any way with Prevention Plus Wellness, please let us know. We'd love to partner with you. But keep up the good work, all of you that you're doing. You're amazing. I know these are challenging times, troubling times. We're all a little concerned, I'm sure, about funding cuts and all of that going on. So continue to support each other, and we will be having next week, same time, same day, Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific time. We have a webinar on our Prevention Plus Wellness Parent Program. So we'll be presenting that next week, Wednesday, if you're interested. One more time, I'm going to look at the Q&A. I don't see any other comments other than what was sent before. So not seeing anything else, I will say goodbye to you. Have a great day, everyone, and a great rest of the week. And let us know if you need anything from us, and you'll be hearing from me very shortly. Don't need to reach out to me. I'll be sending you an email so that you can get the slides and the CEU certificate and the recording of this. Okay? Have a wonderful day, everyone. See you later. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.